Good morning, good afternoon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Data Modernization, Transforming to a Data-Driven Agency. My name is Bill Bosworth, and I am the Director of Data Modernization and Solution Delivery at InterVision. I've been with InterVision for 7 years, working with customers to unlock the value of their data assets. And prior to InterVision, I worked in various roles that included sales operations, data analytics, data warehousing, database marketing, and information technology. For a number of different companies to include Smartsheet, Lumen Technologies, and Microsoft. And without dating myself, for the past 2+ decades, I've always worked with data in some form or some capacity, both the front end through reporting, analytics, and dashboards, by producing, publishing, and authoring, as well as analyzing, and then on the back end, where I tend to spend most of my time by building, developing, deploying, and supporting a number of different data platforms, both homegrown and also using third-party platforms. So today I'd like to talk about some of the things we've learned about data modernization. And although this webinar is intended to focus on the public sector, I think you'll also see how it relates to the commercial side as well. Because at the end of the day, data is data and the challenges are common across all industries and sectors. So the agenda for today will be an overview of current state of public sector infrastructure. What is data modernization? Migrating workloads to the cloud, scaling for the future, and then what are some of the transformative experiences that one can expect through data modernization? We'll also reserve some time at the end for a question and answer session. So based off of data that we've seen and gathered from the NASCIO, or National Association of State CIOs, Gartner, KPMG, Deloitte, we've gathered together what we see as the common concerns for public sector CIOs. And unsurprisingly, cybersecurity is the number one concern and has been for a number of years. And it probably will continue to be a concern into the future. Second to that, though, is digital transformation. This covers a number of different areas, but includes third-party software, which is in this case references largely the continued use of legacy platforms. Emerging technologies is also a topic. This addresses the difficulty of staying in sync with the ever-changing landscape of new technologies. Alongside of that is the adoption of cloud technologies and migrating to the cloud. And interestingly, related to our topic today is the issue of data management. CIOs are increasingly faced with the need to be able to leverage and effectively manage their organization's data. And lastly, related to the previous area, is the topic of technology modernization. It encapsulates many of the previous issues, and this is really the need to stay current with the movements within the industry as a whole. Along with the concerns, of course, come the challenges of addressing these concerns. These are the most common challenges that we've noticed from our customers at InterVision, the things that they're faced with. And these include siloed organizations or departments within an existing customer where they might not be in sync or they're not using common platforms and solutions, and it presents many challenges to organizations, tasking it with the need to stay connected across an entire agency. Culture is another challenge. It's oftentimes overlooked and it may not be as easily apparent to an organization, as organizational cultures will oftentimes have an effect of slowing down or sometimes becoming an obstacle in and of itself. Um, Existing approaches and established processes within an organization can cause resistance to change, or resistance to adapt. It can be a challenge to get people or organizations to make changes, and sometimes it's warranted due to the levels of risk tolerance, and legitimately so, as no one wants to introduce possible show-stopping issues if they can be avoided or mitigated. More common, and probably an issue that all organizations have faced at one point or another, it's the ability to raise or find funding. Um, Tighter economic conditions lead to reduced budgets and revenues and make it more difficult and challenging to be able to make technological investments. Along with budgeting is the amount of resources, or in many cases, the lack thereof, to enact changes. Samples of these can range from hardware limitations to software platforms to having the appropriate level of staffing. And aside from staffing, a very common challenge is being able to find the right skill sets within your organization. And this is the right skills to enable technology changes. So having a full staff does not always mean that the staff has the right experience or the skill set that's actually needed. So what is data modernization? We at InterVision see it as the transforming and optimizing of data assets to be more accessible, usable, and valuable for the purpose of empowering data-driven decision making. I see data as the core to all organizations. It's at the heart of everything. Slightly biased, that's what my career has been centered around, but I really believe that. And generally, the more successful organizations are those that can make use of the data and capitalize on its value better than other organizations. And it's those organizations and companies that can leverage their data as an asset and use it to their advantage to drive their organizations. Being able to access the right information at the right time in a repeatable and reliable fashion, knowing that they can trust the information that's being presented to them, can be a massive game changer. And it's being able to turn your data into information for informative decision making. And to translate that into actual deliverables and things that we see and do, what this often means, it's building databases, warehouses, data stores, creating analytics platforms, um, or even just evolving current platforms that already exist within a customer environment. It covers all stages of building common data analytics platforms, from data acquisition to ingestion, building of data pipelines, transformation of data through application of complex business logic into usable data models, and then building the reporting mechanisms or dashboards for users to consume the data. It's really about bringing the data to the forefront of everyday users to use and leverage for their everyday activities. Like many of the challenges that CIOs in the public and private sector are faced with, there are some of the same challenges and obstacles within data modernization. They're very related and intertwined. The most common of these are resources. So from the executive level to the operational level, having the right skill set within a team that can positively affect the use of new technology. For processes, from regulatory compliance to organizational constraints, like siloed agencies or current culture, can cause issues. Finding partners that are ISO 27001 that are certified in that area, or partners that can meet NIST 800-171 standards, can be difficult. Navigating federal and state level requirements, from cybersecurity to business continuity, disaster recovery, contingency planning, and configuration management. Being able to meet the standards of government information systems and requirements can be challenging. Then on the technology side, in the area specific to data, it's being able to actively manage data quickly and accurately with technology that can handle the stresses and demands of large data volumes and complex data environments. So why do you need to modernize your data? The short answer is that at the end of the day, it's a transformative experience. It allows you to become more agile, more efficient, and ultimately more competitive and effective. You may have heard the expression that data is the new gold. And in a large essence, it is. It's an asset waiting to be discovered. It's extremely valuable. And those organizations that can leverage their data and assets, they can be more successful. So research from Forrester, they've determined that data-driven organizations can grow 30% or more faster than non-data driven organizations. One fact that we've also discovered I find very interesting, it's about data and data growth. Data growth will continue from this point on into the future, and there's just no stopping it. And this one always makes me pause just a little bit. It's been predicted that as much as 147 zettabytes of data will be created and replicated in 2024. A zettabyte sounds like a lot of data, and it is, but actually, how big is that number? So I had to look it up, because my sense of data tends to stop around the terabyte level. So dealing with terabytes of data, that's a healthy amount of data. That's about the point where you start to watch for impacts to space, storage, capacity, throughput, and velocity. Thinking about the data scale, some of you might already know this. You go from a bit to a byte to a kilobyte to a megabyte to a gigabyte and then to a terabyte. So a terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. After the terabyte, you have the petabyte, just 1,000 terabytes. Then you get to an exabyte, and then ultimately you get to the zettabyte, which is 1 billion terabytes. It's kind of mind blowing to think about the amount of data and the size of data that's there that we'll see just this year. But the key point is that data volumes will continue to grow in size this year, next year, and the foreseeable future. Data is here to stay. It's definitely not going away. And with this amount of data, there comes a lot of complexity. And the issue is not just being able to handle large volumes of data, but it's also in how you handle the complexity that comes with the data. Being able to make sense of it, integrate it, join it with other data sets, it becomes a very complicated business. So thinking about the most common workloads that we see that are migrating to the cloud, these are data warehousing, storage, ETL, referred to as extract, transform, and load. But sometimes it's actually extract, load, and transform now, depending on the technology, the strategy, the approach that you're deploying, business intelligence, and now data analysis. For data warehouses, the most common example is migrating an on-prem SQL server to the cloud, which can be something as simple as moving a SQL server to a virtual machine, or something more complex like moving an on-prem data warehouse to a data lake or a similar storage account. For storage, it's usually something along the lines of being able to store or move large volumes of data, or maybe just large volumes of files, which can be structured or unstructured data. In ETL, this is the process for acquiring and ingesting data into a usable format, normally through a data pipeline or storage account. And business intelligence, this is everything from creating dashboards and reports to managing and securing the data in a controlled workspace. And then data analysis, you can think of this as the migration of the type of work that is typically done in spreadsheets or somebody writing T-SQL statements to building out a Databricks and Synapse notebook, but migrating and hosting that type of activity and control directly within the cloud. And we're seeing more interest in this from customers. It's the reliance of data analysis in the cloud, as normally it's a precursor to a customer's interest in moving towards to predictive and analytics, machine learning, and then ultimately AI. So scaling for the future is what I see to migrating workloads to the cloud as two sides of the same coin. They're very related and go hand in hand with each other. Cost controls is an advantage, not just because it's cheaper, like storing data. You can store gigabytes for pennies now, but because you're in direct control with the resources that you need. You can scale up or down computing power at will. So you end up using just what you need when you need it, and it becomes easier to control and manage your expenditures. It becomes an easier budgeting exercise to control your types of expenditures. Scalability and availability. This allows you to grow your services at will with minimal downtime or impact to your users. Uh, BCDR, business continuity and disaster recovery. This ensures that your data is backed up all the time, and it relieves you of the need to constantly worry about failovers. You're also able to deploy code more quickly, building and testing and committing your code for deployment. And then lastly, referencing the number one concern for CIOs, it's security. Security will still be complicated, but it does become easier in the long run when you're dealing with a broad, complex environment, while also providing different control measures to address different requirements for access, regulations, or meeting compliance needs. It becomes easier in a sense to be able to manage that type of security. So some examples of transformative experiences. One that we see a lot is increased agility. And it's not just customers being able to do more with less, but it's also becoming quicker or faster within certain scenarios. Another is being able to provide real-time insights. It's reporting with shorter refresh cycles, so turning published cycles from monthly, weekly, or daily to hourly or within seconds. And then the last one that we see it's is being the biggest transformative experience is being able to integrate data together with other data sources. So an easy example is appending third-party data to say transactional data, but it can also be merging or joining data together from multiple different data sources that have never been joined together and providing a new view. So the image that you see on the slide, this is an example of a report we built for a customer using a circular Sankey diagram. It's oftentimes called a flow diagram. I sometimes refer to it as an affinity diagram or affinity chart. So you can kind of think of this like the Amazon.com algo that provides you certain recommendations. So if a customer's purchasing flip-flops, a towel, and suntan oil, they might also recommend customers like you who've also purchased sunglasses, for example. But in this example, a customer used a few different tools to manage their IT business. One was Cisco Meraki, they're using to manage their networks. And another is a platform called Eternity that they use to manage the end user's digital experience. The issue was that these two tools worked independently from each other. One measured the network while the other measured the end user's performance. By bringing these two data sets together, we presented a new view that did not exist before. By blending the data together, we could start to show how network performance could also be correlated to issues being experienced at the end user software level. So for example, we're able to tie together the number of users that experienced a Wi-Fi disconnect, also experienced an unexpected shutdown within their software platform, or how many users had Windows update failures and were related to machines that were not rebooted within the last 14 days. It was just a new way for customers to look at their IT troubleshooting process by using their existing data in a new way. It became a new tool for their toolkit, a new arrow for the quiver when they go down the path of troubleshooting IT issues. It's a different way to show data that's maybe not as standard or common with a bar chart or a pie chart. Just an interesting way that we found to show and correlate issues at the IT level from different tools that were within their environment, but sat in siloed organizations and teams. So those are the most common transformative experiences: agility, the ability to provide real-time reporting, and then integrating data from various sources and providing a new view. Those are really the most common transformative experiences that we experience. So with that, I think we have a few minutes set aside for some questions. The first one I think is related to different types of platforms that we see. So we will operate with all of the major hyperscalers, so AWS, Azure, and GCP, Google Cloud. If I had to say what is the distribution of usage, I would say we're probably 60% Azure and 35% AWS, and then GCP picking up the remainder. But we see and find a lot of customers that are moving to Azure, already have an Azure presence, an Azure tenant, and they're wanting to fully leverage the different services and activities within Azure. Uh, any other questions? So another question that we just got is, what do we see as the biggest challenge around organizations and agencies that want to modernize their data? Um, Common factors that we noticed and went over at the beginning, those are cybersecurity, migrating to the cloud. I think one that is most common within customers, but maybe is not as prevalent or visible to them, it's the ability to integrate data from multiple sources together. And it becomes a revealing process to the customer when we start to take data from different sides. So back to the example that we had around the integration in that Sankey diagram, taking data from multiple sources and being able to piece them together. We have many times run into customer situations where during the process of discovery, we identify multiple platforms that are being used, but being able to take ERP data combined with CRM data, combined with financial data, and tying three different or more than that different systems together to provide a view into a customer's business, into their operations that they have not had previously. The customers will start to see the true value of their data, using it more in a capacity that it was originally intended, being able to leverage the effects of additional data. It becomes a synergistic experience where you can combine the value of multiple data assets together and creating something that's larger than the parts of the whole. Any other questions? Well, if there's not any other questions, I think we can probably stop there. If you have questions or would like to speak to me directly, please feel to reach out. My email is bbosworth@intervision.com, or I'm also on LinkedIn. Thank you very much, everybody.